Buddy Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific 3 Eastern, Sundays 3 Pacific 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific 1 Eastern, and Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And it is Tuesday here on the show, and you know what that means? We got a lot to get into here today. Tonight, NXT. Give you the full lineup for the show. 6 segments announced. Of course, tomorrow's AEW Dynamite, and we have like a full lineup. 9 full segments announced for Dynamite. I am going to be there for the show, and also for the Rampage taping that is coming up afterwards. He'll be able to talk about that over the next couple of days as well. And then, of course, the King of the Ring. We have got more matches having taken place on Raw last night. So we'll go over the brackets, who's left, and any changes in predictions if there are any. We'll do that here today. And, of course, all of the wrestling news, not the least of which, Vince McMahon's legal team filed a new memorandum yesterday regarding the Janelle Grant lawsuit. And she, of course, filed a motion to strike comments included in his motion when he was asking for arbitration. And his side is saying, why do we need to strike anything from the record? So we'll tell you about that. They also released more information, and we'll tell you why all of this is happening. Also updates on Cash Wheeler's legal case. Jesse Ventura says he is negotiating a Legends deal with WWE. And I'll tell you why I'm laughing about that. Then we got NWA. They allegedly have a new television deal. We have the Raw report from Monday night and plenty more. So if you want to text us today, I will try and get in the text messages. 425-780-7566. F4WOnline@gmail.com. F4W Online Threads, Instagram, and yes, Cameo. Got a Cameo lately? $25. F4W Online. At Bryan Alvarez on Twitter. Back in a moment with more Observer Live.
With Mercedes, I have the same advantage where it's like, well, I have wrestled her before. So anytime you're wrestling somebody you already have experience against, you have a little bit extra knowledge going into it. But I am someone who has been wrestling for the entirety of the past year. Mercedes has not. And we really don't know what she has been doing in the meantime. Whereas all of my recent work has been out there for her to study. So there is a little bit of like, I don't know what to expect, but also I was her last opponent and I beat her. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed, keep working hard, and we'll see how it goes. As far as like my title reign, what I want to kind of be taken away is obviously Chris Statlander is someone who's so very close to me. I've known her for years and years and years. We both came up in Long Island wrestling together, and it's really great to be at this stage together and have her like right by my side for all of it. So I look to her as someone who is like an amazing TBS champion in my opinion, who is like constantly working like Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, back and forth, like all the time wrestling and just like showing how like you can't mess with her. She's the best. She's a champion for a reason. So I hope to follow in her footsteps in that regard. But one thing that I am particularly proud about my role in AEW is I've noticed, or I guess I take pride in like being someone who's gone overseas, gone to work with our partners at New Japan and CMLL, and I've wrestled in Japan and in Mexico so far, being like the first woman in our division to go representing AEW specifically. And personally, I hope that I would have opportunities to bring in people from different countries. You know, I think we have an amazing roster. I want to face as many of the girls that we got here as possible, but also if we could get any of those Stardom, CMLL wrestlers in, if that could be possible, I would love that. I want to be a fighting champion.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Yes, I realize what I said in the opening segment, and I'm going to try and figure out what's going on here before the show's over. But Dynamite is tomorrow, and the lineup has Swerve and Brian Cage in a title eliminator match. Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson versus Kyle Fletcher and Jeff Cobb. Dax Harwood versus Okada. Young Bucks versus Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels. Tony Storm versus Harley Cameron. Mercedes and Willow will have a contract signing. Will Ospreay and Roderick Strong go face-to-face. Adam Copeland calls out Malachi Black for Double or Nothing. I thought I already did that. And the return of Hook. Now, in the opening segment, I said I'm going. And I'm going to be watching this and also Rampage afterwards. At which point, I did start getting messages. Wait a second, I thought Rampage was Saturday. I thought they were doing another 3-hour block. You're right. I thought they were doing that. And maybe they are. But all I can tell you is that I got the email from AEW talking about the show tomorrow. And in the email, it does say, as a reminder, following the live AEW Dynamite, we will be taping AEW Rampage, which will air Friday evening. So it's possible that, like, this is a form letter where they change the beginning here to Angel of the Winds Arena in Everett. Or perhaps something changed. So anyway.
Well, I think what changed is they're not doing that. You're going to get Ring of Honor after that as far as tapings go, because unless something is dramatically changed, Rampage is going to be with Collision in Portland.
Well, we'll find out here soon now, won't we?
I guess so.
Things can change rapidly.
You can tweet it out for your followers and the subscribers.
My subscribers on Twitter? Well, perhaps I will. I got a lot of great stuff this weekend, a lot of TV reports.
Hey, how much would it cost to actually do a on-scene cameo? Would it still only be $25 if we wanted you to report?
There's no way I can do it on screen. Here's the thing with my cameos,
live
everybody.
Cameos?
Here's the thing with my cameos. Not to do a quick plug, but I will.
You do written raps, no freestyle with these?
My cameos, I do not half-ass cameos. You're not going to get 20 seconds of, hey, just want to wish you happy birthday, Bill. Have a great one. Nothing like that. You're gonna get time put in. You'll have more time put in than Drew McIntyre's last title reign. So anyway, no, I cannot do it on location. I'll be working.
All right.
Yes. Now let's talk about the big news here, which is the latest with Vince McMahon, and Janelle Grant. So the history. There was a motion by her team to strike comments included in McMahon's motion to compel arbitration. Okay? So, essentially, Vince's side, and also John Laurinaitis' side, and I believe WWE's side as well, they are all requesting arbitration. The idea being that, well, they had an NDA, and in the NDA it stated if there are any issues on any side, then must go to arbitration, handle the issues. So Vince's side claims that she broke the confidentiality agreement, and as a result, he stopped paying her. And his argument is that, well, she broke the confidentiality agreement, and I stopped paying her, and she filed a lawsuit. Well, she should have taken it to arbitration instead of filing a lawsuit. Her side claims, well, he stopped paying. He stopped paying first, and then... So anyway, at the very beginning, it's like, who's responsible for what? But the point is, Vince, Laurinaitis, WWE, they all want this to go to arbitration. They do not want this to go to trial. So, in requesting arbitration, Vince McMahon's side also revealed a lot of information. That was where it came out that during the length of their affair, their multi-year affair, that building that she was living in, the multi-million-dollar building, she was living there with, according to WWE, or actually according to Vince's side, her fiance, according to her side, her ex-fiance, and, her story that she had been caring for her parents. Vince made sure to mention, her father had been dead for 2 years, and her mother had passed away before that. So anyway, he got all this information out, and so her side requested all of that be stricken, all of that information be stricken. So Vince's side yesterday stated that their motion to get all of that stricken was the height of hypocrisy. It stated that the plaintiff's motion to strike is meritless, the height of hypocrisy, having falsely accused defendant in a public forum, despite an obligation to arbitrate, an inflammatory 67-page complaint. The plaintiff now seeks to strike the preliminary statement, that's Vince's statement, on the purported basis that it is too, quote, inflammatory. So then, and he's doing it again here, they issued a memorandum, and he made sure also, again, to get out more of his story. This is a key to this whole thing. So in stating that, there's no legal basis of striking these original comments. And by the way, here's more comments, he says. He states that all of the text messages, Vince has never argued that the text messages are not real, okay? Because you can't argue that because they are real. If they weren't real, it would have come out immediately. But the text messages that Janelle put in her filing, all real, okay? Vince's claim is that, yes, they are all real. However, you are only seeing the text messages that she wants you to see that paint me in a bad light. He says there are a number of text messages from her where she stated, I'll see how many of these I can read on national radio, she was in love with him, was the love of her life. She said that he was her best friend. She said she wanted to have relations with him and provided graphic detail. A list of her various fantasies we won't read here on the air. That she wanted defendant to watch her have with other people and know about it. That she wanted defendant to give her thousands of dollars of clothes, plastic surgery, other gifts. She wanted to have a future with defendant even after signing the agreement. And she wanted the defendant to keep living in the same building so she could continue to see him even after signing the agreement. So he got all of this out there, and he has also claimed, and this is important here, he claims that all of the text messages that she sent him that were not in her filing, the ones that he wants out, he deleted after their relationship ended. But it very specifically says that the messages that he wants out will come out in discovery. So his side believes that all of the text messages are available. And through discovery, they will all come out. And so what's clearly going on here, obviously, is that Vince wants all of this to go away. He wants this to be settled in arbitration. He does not want this to go to trial. I'm sure he probably doesn't want a lot of discovery either. But, and this is also backed up by the fact that he's hired a PR firm, he wants everyone to know his side of the story. That's why every time there's any sort of filing, he tries to get more of his side of the story out. And so clearly what he wants is for this to go away, but for enough of this to come out where if he wants to do business with somebody, they will say, well, we see what happened here and let's do business together. That is what Vince McMahon wants. And I have no idea what he's going to get. But we'll get Mike's thoughts and more after the break. Observer Live.
It's a great question. Definitely, I think in the Hangman Page matches, that's when Swerve, I think, during his rivalry with Hangman Page, stepped up another level. I mean, I've thought for a long time Swerve's really, really interesting. In Casino Battle Royale in 22 and the Royal Rampage in 22, Swerve really not long after he arrived in AEW, started making a splash, throwing out some of the biggest names in AEW, swerving people in Casino Battle Royal 22, swerving people in the Royal Rampage, and then getting involved with his own tag team partner and kind of a rivalry, and then becoming a world champion as a tag team star, and then breaking out in a singles rivalry. He just kept stepping up further and further and further. But I definitely think the biggest leap was during his rivalry with Hangman Page, and I think that's one of the best rivalries ever in AEW, Swerve versus Hangman. And tonight, I think he cemented his legacy, became the world champion officially, but certainly in recent months, I think Swerve and Samoa Joe has become this incredible rivalry. And it really, in recent weeks, I thought they had one of the best contract signing segments I've ever seen. And there's been so many contract signings in wrestling. We've seen so many. And I think for me, Swerve and Samoa Joe will go down as one of the best. And also, really, on Dynamite, went off with an amazing moment with that Swerve stomp on the pile and then the Muscle Buster. And they went into the pay-per-view on such a high note and then had an amazing match in the main event and left the pay-per-view on an amazing high note. It's been a really great week for the company in so many ways. And I think really, definitely Swerve has stepped up. But if the moment I think he took that leap is when you beat a former world champion like Hangman Page in iconic rivalry. I think that, really cemented him to me. MJF, one of the biggest stars in AEW. We haven't seen him in recent months. And I would love to get MJF back here sooner than later, like really soon. We would, we've got so many great things happening, and I think that would be really additive. He's one of our great wrestlers, and we've had great things happening in AEW lately. A lot of great milestones just in the last really couple months. I mean, to go from Revolution, one of the best shows top to bottom, great matches, like we listed out all the great matches, and to hit the button of Sting's retirement, maybe one of the greatest send-offs ever. I think the greatest send-off ever. And then have Jon Moxley win the IWGP World Championship, coming to Jacksonville this week to defend it against Powerhouse Hobbs. And then have Dynasty be such a huge home run. Everything's going so great for AEW right now. I think that would be something that would add a lot. That'd be awesome to have MJF back, and soon. I would love that.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. And Mike, any thoughts on any of this?
Well, just to, echo what you said about the releasing and the responding filings of Vince McMahon that had a bunch of dirt and tea thrown back in Janelle Grant's direction that was meant to question her credibility. You brought up the PR firm that, remember, Vince is going on moonlit sonatas in Venice or whatever it is, and bringing home kittens from Turks and Caicos and all that sort of stuff. Again, meant to also continue to try to, in his mind, protect him. And Callis made it very simple when WrestleNomics asked for a response to Vince McMahon's response, and all she said was, for any comment, see our original filing. We're confident the truth is well laid out there, and there is nothing to me that Vince McMahon, PR-wise, is going to be able to do every time. All they have to do is point back to the original, and you read through that, and you are reminded of that, and he's going to lose that battle every time, no matter how many PR firms he decides to hire. So we'll have to continue to see what happens. If you forced a gun to my head right now and said, what do you think is going to happen? I don't think this thing goes to trial, and I think it ends up getting settled away from going to Discovery. But we'll have to see how it plays out, because Ann Callis has put up, at least in public, a very brave face as far as trying to follow this thing through, even though the other three parties involved absolutely do not want that.
The other questions that we still don't have answered yet, and I don't know, we may never have them answered. If they go to arbitration, it just disappears. But, one thing that, Vince's side has mentioned multiple times is that the father passed away 2 years prior and the mother passed away before that. But, they've never mentioned when. It's like they can't figure out when the mother passed away. Not that that really has much to do with the story, but it seems like you have all these high-powered lawyers. There are a few questions here. You got all these lawyers.
It seems like a red herring, though, at the end of the day.
How is nobody... Well, here's the other one, okay? What is the timeline of the story getting out versus the payment stopping? Because that's a big crux of the issue right here. Vince says, well, she broke the confidentiality agreement, and so I stopped paying. She says, he stopped paying, so I talked. Well, what's the timeline? When did we first hear about this story coming out? When did he stop making payments? I mean, it seems like somebody should be able to put together, what happened first, right?
I'm sure that that's exactly what they're doing right now.
And then the big question also, because, WWE mentioned it again in this new filing, or Vince did. I keep saying WWE and Vince, but this is Vince and his attorneys. They're in this filing.
It's amazing how they're so synonymous with each other. It's a hard habit to break.
They ridicule the idea that, I forget his name, but he was her ex-fiance. They say she has now changed her story to ex-fiance. I forget how they worded it. But, this one of all of the different things, was he or not? Wouldn't he be the guy to be interviewed? Ask the guy. But apparently nobody has spoken to him about this.
You don't know that.
Well, I mean...
In fact, I would think that many people probably have spoken to him. And, how would you not? How would you not talk to him if you're on either side of this ledger? If you're WWE's lawyer, again, you have so many firms and lawyers involved in this going in different directions. Again, WWE's got a whole separate set of circumstances that they have to deal with. John Laurinaitis, I mean, who knows which way the wind will blow and he'll turn next, depending on what comes next, that's how he'll respond. So I am sure probably everybody is trying to dot I's and cross T's here because, again, heavy claims, heavy money, a lot of moving parts here.
I'll tell you who probably really wants to go to arbitration is John Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Because this guy...
He looks like...
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with this guy, okay? Janelle Grant's story has been consistent from start to finish, correct?
It seems to be, yes.
All right. Whatever you want to say about Vince, his story, his side has been consistent from start to finish, right?
Yes, it has.
Guess whose story has not been consistent from start to finish?
How about that?
John Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
His attorney, their first story was, well, it happened, but I was a victim. And so, when he had not made his, when they had not done their response, prior to that, every time we talked about it, it was like, well, we know what Laurinaitis is going to say because his attorney had basically stated what he was going to say. And then the day comes and he up and supports Vince's story. It's like, what?
Well,
what? You totally did a 180, dude. You totally did a 180.
We need a lawyer on to spin this because, again, I'm a layman. I, watch daytime judge shows. That is about the extent of it. But I would assume his lawyer at some point then is going to say, well, we wanted it to go to arbitration because there were embarrassing things and we didn't want to relive it to my client. If it did it this way, then, who knows how they're going to end up spinning it, but I'm sure that they will. But you're exactly right. I think of the four parties, Janelle Grant obviously does not want it to go to arbitration, at least is not at the top of that list. But at the person that absolutely does, the party that absolutely does, I would assume would be John Laurinaitis.
Well, John Laurinaitis, Vince McMahon, and WWE all want it to go to arbitration.
Of course they do.
And, who knows? I mean,
Still a lot more to go.
There's much more to come.
What are the feds going to say? Do they have anything that they're going to add into this down the line. Remember, so who knows when it comes to Vince what could pop up here in the future. But let's see when the next round of good PR comes out on CNBC.com or whatever it is that reports that, Vince went to Alaska and fell in love with a gaggle of like Malamute pups, and now he's going to bring those back or some other nonsense like that.
Don't bring animals back. Stop.
No, and don't go to Turks and Caicos because it's probably not good for your image either, Vince.
What's wrong with Turks and Caicos?
Well, there's a little bit going around about that place right now.
What's going on?
Well, you wouldn't know, but...
No, actually, I would like to know, like, what's going on.
Well, and then I'm going to have to tell you about Drake and Puffy and all those sorts of things and what a lot of people...
That's all based around Turks and Caicos?
No, but there's a lot of reasons why people apparently go to Turks and Caicos.
My wife wanted to take a trip there.
Was it a medical reason?
Well, no, just to go, because it looked nice.
Get a BBL or anything?
It looked nice there.
Okay.
Now you're telling me I shouldn't go? I need to know the information whether I decide to go or not.
You don't have any heat with anybody. I think you'll be okay. You're more of a family man, I think.
Cash Wheeler no longer going to trial. State of Florida declined to pursue notice regarding his aggravated assault with a firearm charge.
Why are people so upset about this? Do they want him to be charged?
What do you mean upset? Who's upset about it?
I don't know. There are a lot of people. I can't believe. Did Tony Khan go to the police
Well, no,
station and buy him off?
Listen, if there's anything that you could remotely say is weird about this whole thing, and I don't think there's anything that weird about it, but I mean, it is kind of a little odd. So this thing happened on July 27th, okay? Mm-hmm. July 27th. It's May 14th right now, okay? Yes. So the trial date was set for May 20th. Next week, okay? So a week prior, they were like, well, we're not going to pursue this. Yeah. So, yes, when you hear that, people are all of a sudden, especially the people that are like, oh, everything is a conspiracy.
Exactly. It's a lot of those
But I mean...
How fast
here's the thing. If there's one weird thing about it, it's like,
not weird.
What in the heck took so long?
Well, you can make that for any case in America.
Well, exactly. That's why it's not that weird. Like, trust me, it's the state of Florida, brother. There's a lot they're dealing with, okay? I think we all know that, even people living in Florida.
Pressing gun issues there.
I mean, like, if you didn't have anything to go on, it's like you should have thrown this out a long time ago.
Probably, yes.
It just took forever. Yeah. But anyway, it's done. So that's that. Now he goes to Anarchy in the Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No more Dax singles matches, I guess. Maybe that's why we
still get Dax singles matches. What did that have to do with anything? Cash is always there.
Well, Cash is, again, as you mentioned, this was set up to actually be taking place during this time, so I would assume that they maybe factored in that Cash might have some things to do during the day. His mind not be all there or something.
Listen.
I don't know.
Listen. He was scheduled to be in court a week before they booked him for that pay-per-view. So they must have figured nothing's going to happen here.
Well, you're right. And you know what? It may take planning to think of something like that. And that's always a dicey prop there.
So at the beginning of the show, I was talking about Jesse Ventura claiming he was negotiating for a Legends deal.
Baja.
And I kind of laughed.
Got a Legends deal.
Hey, listen, I don't know if this is still the deal, because this was a while ago. But, like, these Legends deals used to be $10,000 a year. $10,000 a year. Mm. And then, obviously, you would get all of your if you sell a Jesse Ventura shirt, you'd get all the royalties and everything like that. But, I mean, we're negotiating. My point is, we're negotiating a not very lucrative deal. That's what we're talking about
Plato's
here.
retreat shirts.
It's like, you want it or not? I mean, that should be the negotiations. I don't know.
I could stretch that money in the Baja.
You could sell some shirts or something like that. Back in a moment with more Observer Live. Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. You know who doesn't get enough credit for being a great promo?
Who?
Damian Priest.
He will now.
Bro, this guy is a great promo. And not just like promos, but like anytime you've got a segment where he's got to talk, he's freaking great. Because he sounds like a dude.
A grown-ass man.
He sounds like a guy he never sounds like he's reading from a script.
No.
He is a classic, I don't know if he's ever like done any acting training, but he is your classic great actor who is merely just reacting to everything. You throw him a line and he reacts to it. And, you know, a lot of guys, you throw them a line and then they got to throw you their line, which is not how you do it. You want to react to what you're given. And God, this guy... And his promo last night, at the beginning of the show, was him and Drew. And, you know, Drew's gimmick is great. He's the guy that he's always telling the truth, which makes people mad. You know,
No, it's not why it makes people mad, Brian. It makes people upset because he's a whiny bastard doing it.
But he is, but he's also telling the truth.
His faults. That's a great heel.
Well, there's a difference, Mike. You see...
Oh, here we go.
He
learn me, Brian.
I will.
Sure.
So what's the big point that he made, okay? The big point Drew makes is, you ever notice that CM Punk will never face me head up, okay? That is true, but it's also twisting the facts. But it is true. You know, he's like, I left and then he just showed up? Yeah, well, he did. What do you want to do about it? And then he points out, you know, this guy is way up there in the box. So I go up to the box and then he goes to the ring.
I should have known.
Avoiding me.
This was Punk-based. I knew it. No, it
is. Well, of course it's Punk-based because Drew McIntyre is the guy who's feuding with Punk.
But Drew McIntyre's been doing this for the entire time
before
Punk even came back.
Drew keeps talking about all these. All he does is tell the truth. And and people get angry about it. So then old Priest comes out. You know what Priest does?
What's he do?
Priest does Drew's gimmick on Drew. Everything he says is the truth. And it makes Drew so angry. Because he goes, all you do is complain. All you do is complain about your title and losing the title. Well, you know what? I wanted to cash in on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Or before WrestleMania. And you and I could have had a match for the title at WrestleMania. You're the guy who kept stopping me from cashing in. And then he says, you're the guy that said, well, why don't you wait until I beat Seth Rollins and then cash in? Well, I did. He notes I did exactly what you told me to do, and now you're complaining about it. So anyway, they're going to have a match at some point. And I don't know what it's going to be. You know, they got that show coming up, that stadium show. Is it the new Clash of the Castle? What are they calling it this time?
I forget what it is.
Anyway, I thought that Drew was just going to beat Priest there, but man, Priest is so good I don't want to be beat. So I guess we'll find out how they do this. Eventually, Drew's winning the title and getting a run. It's patently obvious, but
Damian Priest is his own man. That's the one thing. You know, I'm the leader of the Judgment Day, but I am me. And if you guys want to fool with Carlito, you can. At some point, Damian Priest is going to get turned on by Judgment Day, and he's going to be a huge baby face. And they're already seeming to set him up in this John Wayne sort of role against Drew McIntyre, who would be a perfect leader of a new Judgment Day with those folks, because I don't think Rhea Ripley would be long for it, even when she comes back. Just a little bit to break her up with Dom, do whatever you have to do there, but she's not going to be long for it. I think that would be perfect for Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, and JD going forward.
Clash of the Castle is an arena show. Glasgow doesn't have a stadium.
There we go.
Well, they
don't play soccer in Glasgow?
You know, I also, you know who Priest reminds me of?
Who?
Samoa Joe.
I thought you were going to go ahead.
Because Samoa Joe's a guy where, you know, it'll come out someday, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But my gut tells me that he was never supposed to be the champion. I firmly believe, 100%, that MJF was going to lose that title to Adam Cole at that show. But Adam Cole got his ankle destroyed, still not back, and they had to put another guy in there. And Samoa Joe got the ball, And my God, he was such a great champion. And I'm not saying that they weren't going to ever do anything with Priest because he won the briefcase. And obviously he was going to cash in at some point. But he's a guy that he cashed in, and he's the champion. And it's been like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. I do not want him to lose. He's a great champion. So we shall see. We had a Shayna Baszler, Io Sky, Queen of the Ring match. And Io Sky got the win with the Meteor and the Moonsault. And it was a pretty good match. So she moves on in the tournament. We had a show-long storyline with Priest, Judgment Day, and Carlito. And, of course, Dom wants Carlito in Judgment Day. Priest wants nothing to do with him because Carlito screwed him in Puerto Rico a year ago. They're going back to that storyline. And Carlito is just arguing, listen, Dom's hurt, Rhea's gone, you guys could use another guy, your friends trust me. And then he goes, It's clear, Damien, you don't trust me. And without skipping a beat, Damien goes, nope, don't trust you. Carlito says, well, it's too bad you don't trust your boys. Even stubborn minds can be changed, and he leaves.
But does he trust Dalton Castle's boys?
Chad Gable yelled at Maxine, and then this must have been a live segment because he totally screwed up the matches for later.
Did a good job in covering it, though.
He announces Otis versus Bronson, and actually, I was like, Otis, you're going to be facing Sami Zayn instead. And then he signs Tozawa against Bronson.
I don't want to see them hips swiveling.
I wonder if it was taped and he did such a good job covering. They were like, that's kind of funny. Let's leave it in there. But anyway, we had a bunch of other segments. Lillian Garcia was there. She's 57, everybody.
She looks incredible.
57. Then we had Kofi versus Gunther.
This was weird.
It started out very weird as Kofi viciously attacks him before the bell, beats him so badly that Gunther can't even stand. And as he's lying in the corner clutching at his knee, the ref rings the bell. I was like, you're a horrible person, referee. You're a horrible person. And then later,
discretion.
Gunther makes a big fight from behind comeback as the heel. He starts choking Kofi. The ref's like, stop! 1, 2, 3! I'm like, did Kofi pay you? Like, what's going on here? And then finally, Kofi made his comeback, and then it got right. And they had a great final couple of minutes. Gunther submitted him. Moves on in the tournament. We had a couple of Lyra promos, which are not her strong point.
No. Well.
And then there was a punch that Becky gave Liv, which was the worst punch. No, it was.
Yeah, it's.
Can you guys go back and watch it again?
She hit her in the back of the neck. Look,
it was so hilariously bad.
If she didn't sell her jaw so much, it wouldn't have been that bad.
She didn't even rear back and then stomp. She went.
Punch her in the neck. You get punched in the neck, it doesn't feel good.
Bronson Reed and Tozawa. Tozawa got yelled at by Gable, and then Bronson tsunami'd him and pinned him. I wish they would have gone longer. This could have been so much fun. There were 2 matches like that on this show. And then Kaiser did an interview. He wants to take out Sheamus. We had Lyra and Ivy in a Queen of the Ring tournament match. And, or no, I did this last night too. Zoe.
Yes, you did.
I gotta fix my notes here. I haven't edited them yet, so who cares? It was Zoe and Lyra. Lyra beat her.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning somewhere.
With the Nightwing. That's what they call it. And then my favorite thing in wrestling is a Lyra Valkyria promo. So she says, I'm confident. And then she starts speaking in Gaelic, and the crowd's like, what? Because she has an accent already, so I don't even know if they knew she was speaking Gaelic. I think they just couldn't figure out what she was saying.
Well, I don't know.
And then she goes, I am Lyra Valkyria, a former NXT Women's Champion. I travel only as the crow flies. Straight to the top. I was like, can you be managed by Skinner?
if Becky Lynch can get over Lyra, and I like Lyra, but I don't know what her prospects are on the main roster. I'll say this, though. If you want to do some serious student acting, stick her and Ilya Dragunov out there, because that was one thing during the main, too, where it was just like, there is a lot of wasted motion when it comes to him playing to the crowd in an overdramatic way. They both have that in common.
Sami Zayn beat Otis. And it was all a story match. Like, literally, Sammy's getting squashed like a jobber. And then Otis does the worm, and Chad is furious. And, of course, he tells him to go do the Vader bomb, and then he misses. And then Sammy hits the kick and pins him. And then Chad gets in the ring, chews out Otis. Sammy ends up running down to make the save. He gives Chad the big suplex into the corner, goes for the kick. Chad heads outside. And Otis, the loyal Otis, goes to help him to the back, and he gets slapped for his troubles. And he's so sad. This frickin' Otis turn is going to be monstrous when it happens. And it's going to be great.
Bring back Mandy to put with him, too.
Becky Lynch and Dakota Kai. Damage Control ran in for the DQ. This match kind of sucked a little bit. I mean, They were on two totally different pages multiple times during this match. And I don't know if their time was cut. They were trying to go real fast to make up for it, and they screwed stuff up, but it was not all that good. And then they beat her down. Lyra runs down to make the save, so got some tag matches coming.
But why didn't Lyra have that energy for Liv? Like, then Liv comes in and wipes out Becky, and like she's still stunned that like Liv could do such a thing. Like, what happened to you? Like, as if she hasn't been wrecking shop there for the past couple of weeks.
Then we had a four-way, which Judgment Day won over AOP, New Catch Republic, and the Creeds. They're the new number one contenders to the tag titles, and Carlito helped them win, which led to Priest basically saying, hey, my guy's got your back. Make sure you take out that Rey Mysterio. Don't let us down, amigo. So Carlito's so happy. He called me amigo.
What do you think of Dom's mustache, by the way?
It's
amazing.
Jey Uso, Ilya Dragunov in a tournament match. It's quite a great match. Ilya Dragunov is great. Jey had a real good showing. And as I expected, Jey Uso beat him. Clean in the middle with the big splash. So, there were several matches when I was looking at the graphics. And I thought, okay, I can see Shayna versus Zoe in the tournament. Didn't give us that one. I can see Gunther Ely in the tournament. Didn't give us that one. And the other one is you could look at the brackets and go, Bianca and Jade. They ain't giving us that one. Tiffany's going to win. So, they're making you want matches and not giving them to you by the way they did the brackets so that they can give them to you later on down the road on big shows, and it'll seem like a big deal.
That's one of the things you want a tournament to actually do for you.
Yes.
And it's a good use
You shouldn't be throwing away great matches in a tournament. You should have good matches in the tournament. You don't want a bad tournament, but you should have people looking at the graphic going, oh my God, Bianca and Jade are in the same, like they could, but they don't give it to them. And then the fans are like, oh, man. And then you sign it for later. So.
Or you have a match that gives people a taste of something that might build to something later. So, again, tournaments can be used in a positive way.
Brandon's got a question here, which I'm going to answer after the break regarding the tournament. Back in a moment, Observer Live. So Brandon here says, since Jey Uso was not originally in the tournament, do you think Drew McIntyre was going to win? No. Because this is what I think is going on. Drew McIntyre's got a bad elbow, but he's had a bad elbow for a while, and he was wrestling with his bad elbow. So I think, if you look at, there's 5 people that were scheduled for this tournament that ended up being pulled due to injury, and I think that 3 of them were legit injuries, and 2 of them were storyline injuries. And the Drew McIntyre injury, I believe he could have worked King of the Ring. I think this is all storyline because they've turned it into a major part of the storyline, where Drew McIntyre got pulled from the tournament after he mentioned his elbow, and then he was replaced by the guy he hates more than anybody, except CM Punk, Jey. So he's been complaining about this the entire tournament, which is another reason, by the way, that I think Jey is going to win, because now Drew is even more furious because the guy that replaced him won the entire tournament. So I think Jey was always going to be in the tournament. I still think he's going to win. It's possible it'll be LA Knight, or it could be anybody that's left. But I think that Drew was never actually going to be in the tournament, and him being pulled and replaced was part of the whole Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Jey Uso storyline. But I guess we'll see. We got to wrap it up. Tonight, the Brian, Vinny, Granny, Craig, and Sean show. Granny's Facebook, or you can post on my, I'll put a thing up on my Twitter for my subscribers. What do you think the stipulation should be for the Brian and Vinny Bothell beautification match at the Brian and Vinny live show in Vegas? We're putting them all on the wheel. We're going to spin the wheel. The YWF World Heavyweight Championship's going to be on the line. You can only witness this if you're there live in Vegas. Memorial Day weekend. F4WOnline.com/Vegas. Get your tickets now. We're running out of time. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.